Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 36th episode of the ArtaCast. It gets harder and harder for German people to speak that. Today, with a I think a very informative episode because it's our prepare for set championships episode with the last set championships in this format. Will be shaking up a lot. The last time you can play a lot of cards. If you are happy to play Diablo, Theseus, and Prince John, I would recommend to play as a championship because after that you are not allowed to play them anymore. So and we have a lot of decks, and yeah, I think LD you prepared them and we talk about them together. But I think you will guide us today a bit throughout that, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. So rather than looking back specifically at the tournament results from this weekend, because we had a big tournament in Italy and a very large tournament in Texas, rather than looking over some of those lists, I've kind of pulled some high finishing lists from both of them to help us look at all of the decks. And I say all of, you could definitely play other things as well.
Mhm.
I pulled out 12 distinct decks that I think are very playable at set championship. I'll take us through them and we'll sort of have a chat about their relative strengths and maybe focus a little bit on the kind of environment that you would play them into. So look at the sort of things that look at their weaknesses, and then we can talk about, what would make you really want to play this deck over another one. And hopefully people can get some good advice on what to take to their upcoming set championships.
Yes, nice. Sounds good. So we try to cover every deck that is playable, that seems to be playable right now, you could say, right?
Yeah, so I think I focused on the main ones, and actually for all of the kind of, there are, as we sort of said at the start of the set, it's a metagame where there's quite a lot of annoying stuff going on, so you have quite a lot of emotional reactions to games, but it's definitely not like a metagame where there's only one or two playable things and something is so broken that you have to play it. There's tons of playable stuff. So I've pulled out 12 different lists. I think if I had to, I could probably name 5 or 6 more that were also pretty playable, including some variants on some of the ones we've got. But yeah, this is kind of, we can't talk forever, so we have to cut off somewhere. But I think all of these decks represent archetypes that are super playable at the moment and could very, very capable of winning set championships.
Sounds good, yeah. Sounds reasonable. Let's start.
Shall we get straight in?
Yes.
No small talk.
No. What I just thought about what can be small talk. I didn't play that much Lorcana, honestly. No, I did play much Lorcana, but not in a tournament or something. The meta is settled. I got way more feelings about what we talked about last week, but but my feelings just settled a bit. I think I'm more even on the opinion than last week. Then it's like less worse than we think, but it's still upset a bit. And for me personally, it's also a different story because I'm not involved in that, because I'm in Asia then, and it will not affect me honestly.
Yeah.
So but for me the sad thing is that I can't play it the too much of the rotation stuff, and that's what I really think everyone is excited for rotation, but that's what I wanted to say. Like, I would like to how can I say, to take you down a bit, because like I think the rotation will not change everything. There's a lot of stuff that it's not a crazy new world we live in then, but it's kind of a bit of a new world. But I think if you have struggles with Lorcana right now or something, or how you deal with that, with the stuff, or even with your emotions. Or I hear many people of getting too much tilted and stuff. I think honestly that won't change too much. Probably that's my guess now. So if you feel more, the more you feel like, oh, finally rotation, I think the more you get disappointed afterwards. That's my feeling right now. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a complete whole new story. And
I think that's a really good point, and you do have to measure your expectations a bit. And I'm also feeling the same way, because I tried to do something this week, which was, I'm kind of shifting my attention to post-rotation now, and this episode where we go through decks for set championship is really going to be one of the last times that we're actually looking at this format. Much more from here on out is going to be forward-facing, decks for rotation, potential playable cards, and then covering spoilers as they come to look at what this format's going to shake up like. But I tried to, within our testing group, I tried to sort of simulate an environment for testing post-rotation, which is that obviously if you build a deck out of cards from set 5 through 8, that basically looks nothing like what a post-rotation deck will look like, because everything hangs on these reprints. Nothing matters. You're completely wasting your time until the reprints are confirmed, because lots of these cards are complete format staples that, whether there are some cards that individually are like, if this is reprinted versus if it isn't, it is an entirely different format. And that's not really an exaggeration. So the exercise that I tried to go through was, I allowed myself 6 cards for each color that are not mixed power levels. Some of them very powerful, some of them less so, but kind of important. And did like drafted up a provisional sort of essential reprint list. These are the cards that, if they don't exist in some form, the game starts to break a bit. By the time I got to the end of that list and had just these 36 cards that I'd kind of pulled out of thin air based on my opinion on which things are necessary for balancing the game, I was left with, if just those 36 were reprinted, the game basically wouldn't change at all. And there are far more than 36 reprints coming. I think the number... What am I trying to say? There are a small number of cards from set 1 through 4 that have an outsized impact on what the metagame looks like. So it's not the case that these sets are containing every single playable card. It's more that they're containing a huge percentage of the core engines of most of the decks that we have today. Those engines could be 2 to 4 cards. That's a very reprintable number. And so if they were all reprinted, the game would see almost no meaningful evolution. So that kind of got me thinking along the lines you are of, right, the change that we see might not be so big. I mean, my personal preference is I'd love to see big change. Take away the powerful tools and let me innovate with what's left, basically. But I don't know if that's exactly how it will go.
The problem is, even if the change is big, the change is not long, Sure. That's the other side. But it's still refreshing and stuff. For me, it's like very hard to say what they think is a good reprint. That's still something you really only can assume. I don't know. I think my feeling is that they reprint really, really only core identity cards, and it doesn't matter like if the power level is there.
Yep.
It does. It matters like what is the core identity of this color, and then they don't influence the power level of cards that much, but that's just my I think cards like Dragonfire, for example, that's a reprint for me, for example. That's
except that card is already confirmed to not be reprinted.
Oh really? Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh really? Okay.
During the Lorcast, they showed non-foil Dragonfire and Let It Go promos that will be available through some of the events next year. And they confirmed that those are not being reprinted, and that doesn't mean a reprint. So back to the drawing board of your idea, Dragonfire, not a good example at all. But I see where you're going. That's like a textbook fair should be in the game forever effect, and it's the sort of thing where it's kind of like, well, we might not see reprints, but we may see functional reprints. For example, you could try a Dragonfire that's inkable, for example. Same cost inkable. That's a much more pushed card. It instantly becomes way better. Or you could try it at 4, for example, because it's a kind of card that is playable, doesn't see play in high numbers because it's a bit clunky. Maybe you push Red's spot removal and take back some of its sweeping power, rein that in a bit, and give them higher power spot removal. So, even though we know it's not getting reprinted, that's no guarantee we don't see some sort of like functional reprint that's essentially the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
But okay, maybe we talk about that maybe later or next week, because we have a lot of to do right now. I think
we can get into all of that. It's a very, very exciting time.
Yeah, we could talk about it for hours, but it's like
I really like speculating on it, and actually, I think it would be great if next week we can do like a full focused episode on that, because there are so many things that go into a decision to reprint or not reprint a card, and I want to talk about all of them. So come back next week. We'll get into the gritty detail. But for now, let's focus on what's coming up first. Set Championship season. It's got a long run this time. I think it starts next weekend, which would be the 12th. I was going to say 16th. 12th of July, and runs through until at least the first weekend of August. I think maybe the second.
I think the second.
So a wide season. People that want to get out to a lot of events should have a chance to, and also a wide format. So lots and lots of different playable decks. You're going to have to face some variation on probably everything we run through now. So let's not waste anyone's time anymore. Let's get straight into the first list. To kick us off, I'm going to have a look through 3 different Amber Steel decks, because Amber Steel is so good it can support 3 distinct decks at the moment. The first version comes courtesy of Rob Serp from the 15K PPG Texas this weekend. This was the second place finishing deck, and not only is it kind of a distinct approach to Amber Steel, it's also just a very cool deck that even if we weren't doing this, I would have wanted to talk with you about today. So what are your thoughts on this version of Amber Steel that's kind of a little more of a medium? I'm calling it mid-range, but there's some trickery going on as well. It's not straight up mid-range.
I think if you search for a deck that's an Artabax deck but not green purple, it's this. It's I love this deck I love it very much. I think I think this list in particular is very clever built, because he also plays like he goes full on this value stuff, like even with the Daisy Duck and You're Forgotten Me. I get that. I totally get that, and I totally get why he performed that well. It basically the only problem about this deck is that it has kind of polarizing matchups, and it's very hard to build. And I'm working on it right now too, and it's very hard to, because you need some sort of aggression against some decks, and that makes it a bit tricky to build, because like a lot of decks you just stomp with pure removal stuff, and it's not, but especially red decks, for example, they can survive often very good, and then B prep, and after the first B prep, if B prep wouldn't exist, it would be the best deck in the format, I think. But he tries to even outvalue these decks, like with this Daisy Duck and the Forgotten Me. So I totally get that, and I didn't see that list till today, so I'm excited to try that out too. I think it's one of the best picks for set championships. At least if you ask me, if you can play it well, it's very very high skill expression. I'm so high on this deck. I love it, and I think it's very strong. But of course, it's one of the most polarizing decks. That's what you need to know. Like Red Blue, for example, is really, really, really tough. The only thing I could imagine, like you could get them sometimes with the Forgotten Me, especially in the first game, where they don't are prepared for that. But that you need here at least some Lawrence and Smith in there to get some lore through. But
but that's exactly what Rob said in one of his player interviews during the tournament, because I was watching the stream. Said that, you know, this version of it was essentially cooked up to have a lot of the advantages of just, you know, this core, the core that Amber Steel has in this set is, you know, with the addition of Rhino, is exceptionally powerful. It's never been bad, and it just has gained something else. Its weakness is its red-blue matchup, but with this kind of ability to just discard them, there were lots of windows, because these blue decks essentially go straight to ramping to, okay, well, if we're against Amber Steel, we aggressively ramp because we want to empty our hand in case of a whole new world. We want to get up to the point where we can start playing B preps and C suits as quickly as possible. And often they get themselves into situations where they have got ahead on ink and they're sat there with 2 cards in hand. And in that position, a You Have Forgotten Me ends the game. So
basically.
So it kind of becomes, while all of these Amber Steel decks have relatively tough matchups against Red Blue still, you have this incredible gotcha. And certainly Rob will have been gaining some percentage points with the fact that this build was completely unknown, because You've Forgotten Me as a card that can be played around, and when you don't expect it, it's much better than when you do. But,
even Daisy, Daisy, when you keep your last card in it, Daisy can also then sing every song in the deck. So it's very cool. I like it very, very much.
Really smart.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Rob is a very, very smart player who at every turn kind of does things their own way, and constantly impressive, a real sort of joy to watch, and also in interviews and stuff speaks very eloquently about the deck. So if you're catching up on coverage, I would certainly go check out some of the top 8 games Rob playing this list. So I guess the question we're going to try and answer for most of these decks is, like, what environment would you play this in, or what environment would you not play it in? Do you think that this gains enough points against Red Blue that this would become the Amber Steel deck that you play when you know you're going to have to face some amount of Red Blue?
No. I think you
okay.
if you really expect a high number of Red Blue, I would still play the more aggressive version. Like, even Daisy is a very important card against them, and Piglet too. So I think there are environments where the traditional Steel Song is probably not what I would play right now personally, but the aggro version has its spot for me as well. Like there's just or even like decks like, how can I, green yellow discard or something. There would also, I would like to play more the aggressive version, or I think discard decks in general, or decks with a lot of ward characters and stuff. There's a lot of there's some decks I would play the aggro version over this, but this is also what I really just personally what I would really enjoy to play. I really enjoy to play. Yeah. So I think if you expect a lot of aggro, this is I think this is the best deck you can play, and it's better. It's way better than Steel Song for me, because against aggro, because you don't refill your opponent hand. You just shoot everything down, and then he's out resourced, and you're not reliant on wheel to refill your hand. So from overtaking the board, there's no way for your opponent to come back, and that makes it very, very powerful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, with that in mind, let's have a quick look at a couple of the other builds of Amber Steel that I've pulled out. We've got another build from the top 4 of the PPG event in Texas, and this is your more traditional Steel Song version, which does play Whole New Worlds. And of course, we know the power of this kind of build. It's done this thing forever. It also gains a lot from the addition of Rhino and a couple copies of Namari, which is finding its way into some of these builds now. And yeah, doing some good work for them as an absolutely gigantic Whole New World singer. Yeah, really a card that was kind of it was one of the more hyped legendaries coming into the set. Sort of failed to do anything, but I think now finding a comfortable home in some of these lists and looking pretty strong. You can certainly play the deck without it, but I think it's a nice addition. And yes, basically, if you've found yourself playing Amber Steel Song traditional and you're one of these people that's played it forever and you're able to execute those lines without falling asleep, then then I would just run it back.
Yeah, if you're there's no reason to not play it if you're a fan.
Exactly.
For forever, there's no particular reason to not play it. But and I think the banning of Hiram still makes you a bit better against red blue because it's like more clunky for them to build up all their stuff. But it's still, of course, the matchup you don't want to face with still. So, yeah.
Yes, and I don't mean to suggest that this deck is boring when I say about falling asleep. I'm only saying that something that I keep pointing out in conversations with people is like the lack of meaningful evolution in Amber Steel's play patterns. Like if you think about how long you've been going turn 1 Cindy, turn 2 storm your opponent's character, play Vanessa, turn 2 sing Zeus with Vanessa, play Ariel, turn 3 wheel with Ariel. It's the exact same run out. It's got the exact same weaknesses it always had. It's got the exact same strengths it always had. And some people have shorter attention spans like me and can't spend too long doing the same thing. But if you are one of these people that have spent the last year or so becoming an absolute expert in this build, there is absolutely no reason to not play it right now. And it's probably something worth addressing because with there being multiple viable, potentially tier 1 Amber Steel builds at the moment, there probably are a fair few Amber Steel loyalists who are thinking, right, is the one that I like still the right one for me? And the answer is always whichever one you think you can play the best, you should play. There is no reason why you need to stop playing a Whole New World type builds. There are just additional ways to play Amber Steel if you want to.
That sounds good. There's another reason why you should play Amber Steel songs. If you look on the list, look how many cards survive rotation. There's not many. There's really not many. And so this is the last chance to fully. We know that Whole New World also will not get reprinted. So
no reprint for that.
It's your last chance, friends.
Yep, last chance to dance if you want to play 19 inks worth of cards on turn 4, which every time I say it out loud feels like a joke and like a number I pulled out of the air. But no, I'm pretty sure 19 is the number, right? Like that's what you can do.
19.
If it's 3-cost song with your Cindy, 4-cost song with your Vanessa, that's 2. 5-cost song with your Ariel,
12.
That's 12.
And then you can play.
No. Then you ink and 16. Play your 4. 16, not 19. 16. Sorry, 16.
Otherwise, it would be broken.
Ink worth. Yes, it would. If it was 19, it'd be too much. It's 16 ink worth of actions on turn 4. If you like doing that, it's as good.
No, you can play. You can play 21. You play then Naveen and play another Whole
Naveen. Of course. How did I forget that? Of course. 21 inks worth of cards on your 4th turn can be played. And it's not even that hard to do. But I don't know, the line we just described, I don't know how good it is to wheel and then Naveen wheel again. That might not be the best. But yeah, it is doable if you want to do it. Yes, and the last build of Amber Steel, to just keep us moving along, think this is pretty reflective of the aggro builds at the moment. This is Amber Steel aggro, which if you've been playing a fair bit this set, you probably haven't been able to avoid. Much more aggressive build, and it's probably the best aggro deck in the format, right? And maybe the best aggro deck we've ever seen in terms of like a straight up aggressive deck.
Yeah. I think it's totally reasonable to play that.
If you are someone who likes to apply pressure and turn cards sideways, this is the best that strategy has ever been, I think, in terms of like competitive viability. Every other straight up aggro deck we've seen before has been like tier 2 at best, has had some serious drawbacks. This is a real contender. It still has a pretty high skill ceiling. There's lots of room for skill expression within it. But in terms of like raw aggressive power, I would say this is the best that an aggro strategy has ever looked to me.
Yeah, and there's still some room for. I think has a lot of room to build a deck. For example, this version here is like playing the Goofy, and Penny is also not what everyone plays. And there's still a lot of Calhoun. There's still a lot of things you can try. I'm personally not convinced by the Goofy that much. I don't know. But this version here, like in 332 players, fourth place, like there must be something,
Well, I've seen the Goofy do really, really good stuff.
With Smee,
obviously, it's unbelievable with Smee. I saw a play on stream in the Texas tournament this weekend that I really loved, and it was like so non-standard that it had to get a judge call. The opponent just had to check, like, actually, can they do this? Which was the Amber Steel player had a Lawrence with 3 damage on it and a Goofy in play, and then they Rapunzeled their Lawrence and chose only to heal 2, so that they could draw, and so they would get the ready effect on their Lawrence.
Nice.
Valuing having Lawrence stand back up over drawing the extra card. And that is indeed how Rapunzel works. The card says up to. There are some nice little lines you can find with that Goofy and some cool things you can do. But it's that threatening to have all of this stuff keep readying is very, very powerful in combination with Pete, for example. Like a ready board on a turn that you peated is like, well, do you have an Elsa? If not, you can't interact with that board because it's turn 5 and I'm threatening lethal sort of thing. I do like that Goofy. You'll definitely see some builds without it. This one does have it and did really well at the weekend. But I think that if you like straight up racing games, if you like to play, occasionally this deck plays like a tempo deck. When you're putting a 2-drop into play off of a lady on turn 3, it's a very high tempo play. And then using your lady as your singer for your first removal, you get so far ahead on board that it's almost, this is a super aggressive deck, but it's almost reductive to call it an aggro deck because it kind of diminishes the fact that actually it still has like 8 removal spells. It still has these. I don't know. It does a lot. It's not one note. There's a lot of room for expression within it, and I think it's very powerful and likely to be really popular at set championships because being a high power aggro deck, you have pretty low skill floor as well as a high skill ceiling. So players that maybe think they're less experienced or something, or just like, maybe they don't like too much of the late game decision making, they're going to be able to get a lot of work done with a deck like this.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
Yep. I'm going to turn the next one over to you for your thoughts a little bit. First, so moving on to red-blue now. 2 builds of this to look at. And the first one is, well, let's call it blue-red DKP in honor of the world's winner. Yes, what are your thoughts on blue-red DKP at the moment?
I would say if I say now not the highest, it's weird because I'm just higher on the items build. That doesn't mean that I don't how can I say accept the the other build, so it's still a reasonable deck. Yeah, it didn't change much. This particular version, I think, I'm really curious why you only play 3 Kamatalas. That's something that's weird to me. But obviously, how can I judge someone who plays top 16 in a 450 player tournament? How can I judge these deck lists? But yeah, I think it's a good deck if you like the playstyle. I think it's a very hard to play deck correctly. So you should get a lot of practice and preparation if you want to play this. And if you just search for a deck that's like, how can I say, it's really good in the meta right now, then I wouldn't say it's because there's a lot of Zeus stuff right now, and a lot of. I think there's no reason to jump on it, but if you are on it, then it's of course something you can work on and make run and still can do well in the tournament. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I've tried to do exactly that, which is that, right, this is very much not my kind of deck. It's kind of the opposite of the sort of deck that I like to play personally. And I have tried jumping onto it before, and when you're less experienced with it, what's the best way to frame it? As the opponent playing decks that have limited shark answers, what I have seen of it is, right, they play a shark and then they win. So I start to play the deck and I think, if I get a shark into play, I win. And then my shark gets Zeused and I lose. And I'm like, how did I lose? I got a shark into play. There's actually a lot more. There's a lot of depth to the deck. Very decision intensive, super skill rewarding, really good at. It can be an incredible anti-aggro deck, and can also be incredibly fragile to aggro.
Yeah.
These things shouldn't exist at the same time, but they do, and they all kind of come down to pilot skill. So if you're someone that's played it for a long time, I would say it's a great time to be playing it. But I completely agree, in terms of jumping on now, maybe it isn't what I would launch right into.
Yeah, you need also to. It's one of the decks that you need the most understanding of tempo, how tempo works in a game, because like this deck can run away very easily if you just calculate what is your opponent's outs. You could say, like, if you.
Yep.
There can be. I think DKP, for example, knows some games like, if he slams down now a mana, your opponent can't come back, and that's something you need to know in every game, or this deck makes nearly no sense. I mean, you will win some games by just opponent don't ask answering sharks, but that's not the maximum you can get out of the deck. There are some games you just out tempo your opponent and then you win by that, and you need to fully understand that, because every mana, for example, in particular, is the most important card to play right with. A wrong placed mana is game losing. A right placed mana is game winning, obviously. And that's why I think it's a very high skill ceiling in the deck. Yeah,
totally agree. Cool. So let's maybe jump to the other big red-blue build. This won the Galactus Grand Prix. This was the tournament in Rome. 332 players. It's a deck on the rise. This one has some interesting things going on in it that I haven't seen in other builds. Red-blue items. You said you're higher on this deck. Why is that?
It's one of the. If I have to name something, it's one of it's the most powerful deck of the game right now, and that's why, and that's because I think it's like. It has a crazy good matchup spread. I think because it crushes some decks, absolutely crushing them, and not like a bit. It really crushes them. So you have a really good. For example, in a 2-game format, you have a really good shot against some decks to easily 2-0 them. But 2-game format doesn't appear in some set championships, most likely. But still, there's no deck in particular that I think will crush you. On the other hand, that's a crazy good thing about it. That's why I think this deck is so crazy powerful. Because of course, against aggressive stuff, you need your stuff. That's clear. You need most of the time you need a bell on the draw and an early Caesar shift and stuff. But I mean, you're against an aggro deck on the draw. What do you want? You have your outs at least as an hyper control deck. You can say you have still outs against aggro, and that's good. That's good for really control, because like control should get absolutely crushed on the on the draw against aggro, and this doesn't. And against all kinds of, if you just, it's still like that like in the past, like if you don't do meaningful things in the early game, you get crushed by this. Like if you dawdle around just a bit, it's like you can't let this deck have time to develop a workshop or stuff. You always need to pressure them, or you like completely lose easily by them. And also one of the decks that I think have the highest skill expression, or the highest, it's very, very hard to play. Like you have a lot of,
for sure,
you have a lot of uninkables traditionally, and you have a lot of how can I say, options to really break your hand if you're not careful. So you need to be really careful to do the right things on the right time. And this list, which won, it's even greedier. I personally thought, I think we talked about it last week or so, that it's not possible to play a deck in this environment like this. But if you're not ramping on turn 2, I think you just lose to so many things. But he showed us that it's no problem.
I just noticed, like, the standout card from this build that's not in a lot of the others is Chicha.
Yeah.
And I just noticed where the room for Chicha came from, which is no small Sisus. So no Sisu shift line is in the deck.
And even another card that's even more meaningful that not is in here. Tipo, yeah.
Yeah.
So like he doesn't want to ramp on turn 2. Also either he plays Sail or he plays Chicha.
Yeah.
And I just thought you can't do that right now, but you can.
Yeah.
So
think about like how free every kind of slow matchup would be with this deck. There's nothing that could outgrind this. If you add Cheechas instead of like baby Sisus, nothing can outgrind this at all. Nothing will draw more cards than this.
I mean, he makes up for that not ramping on turn 2 with basically he wants to play Fishbone on turn 3 then to also ramp. But I thought, or at least in my experience while playing the deck, I thought it's too important to play like either Scrooge or Kramatala on turn 3 to catch up on board. But I did play the deck a lot, but not that much that than him, obviously. Or he just, maybe he also got just a bit lucky with his matchup. But I think, there's nothing to judge here if you want this big tournament. Only 3 calls is also very surprising to me.
Well, I mean, fewer small Sisus. Don't play small Sisus. You don't need coil so much.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's true.
Yeah, very interesting build. But I think in general, blue-red items, super powerful option going into set gems. And likely to be... like I say, nothing will outgrind it. If you feel like your whole day is grindy matchups,
and again,
then nothing is going to outgrind it.
And again, if anyone thinks the Hiram ban was not right, this is tier 1, even with banned Hiram. This is crazy. It's really crazy. So you cannot argue against banning Hiram for
No.
you can't really.
No.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on. Next up, we have the 5th place deck from the Galactus Grand Prix, the same event as the last one. We have red purple evasives, and I haven't called out the red purple bounce as a distinct deck list this time. I do, just a quick note on that, I do still think it's playable. I've not pulled a list to look at because the vast majority of high performance red purple results this set have been evasives and looks something like the list here, give or take a couple of cards. You've played a fair bit of this, right? So maybe you educate me on the advantages of red purple evasives.
I don't want to talk too much. I think I'm talking too much. I wanna.
I think I'm talking too much.
Oh, really? Okay, then we both. Okay, I start. I'm trying to build a version still like that has the best things of both sides, because I think the evasives are way better into aggro, and the bounce is still, if you have like bounce and goals and stuff, then you are still way better into red blue, for example. But it's like hard to and maybe it's not efficient enough to try to build 2 worlds in one deck. But yeah, it's still something you could try to do. But if you expect a lot of aggro, and I think then set championships is probably that, and I think evasives is the better
higher aggro environment for sure.
Is the better deck. I think red purple evasives is a very strong deck. There is nothing. I would personally in set championships try to not play that much greedy cards like Hades and stuff, but yeah, it's a preference thing. I think you get rewarded for consistency in set championships. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, I think so too. These sort of like one-offs that help some of the slower matchups, that sort of thing, I tend to shift them out and just go up to 4 copies of the things that I know I need to survive the early game, because generally in those early rounds you're going to have some I don't know, slightly lower quality games as you work your way towards the top cut. And the easiest way to lose those is with bricky, high cost stuff that's designed for grindy matchups. So yeah, that's a kind of general pointer that I always try to do in these sorts of events.
I think, for example,
I think. Go ahead.
The Peter Pan and Shark, for example, must be for me. Like the synergy is too crazy good that you and you have of course obviously a higher chance to draw them together if you play both as a 4th. And there's still some cards that you can adjust and prepare. Like I think the Ursula, the 2-drop Ursula could be quite good in set championships. Iago is always a card I don't know. It's hard to fit him in, because the deck slots are contested. I think library is needed and stuff. So it's hard to fit some Iagos in, but I would personally also play 4 Brawl and stuff. But it's just a personal thing. It doesn't matter that much. I think it's a very strong deck. It's a very consistent deck. If you search consistency, I think it's very consistent. And don't know, what do you say?
Yeah, no, just it's one of those decks where if you rush in a shark and connect to bring back a friends and then sing that friends with the Peter Pan that just gave your shark rush, it's tough to lose a game from there, and against a lot of like steel decks and that sort of thing. So yes, I don't think we need to spend too much longer. Well, I don't think we need to spend any longer on it. People know the relative strength of this deck. It's still well positioned. It's still getting the job done. If you're a sort of permanent red purple player, I think that this is probably, evasives is the way to go. You can argue about individual cards, but at the moment I would play evasives over bounce, and Shark is an exceptionally good card, so I'm probably playing with that. Okay, moving us along to another deck that refuses to go away. Emerald Steel discard. this was third at the same tournament as the last two decks we've looked at, which goes to show the sort of diversity of the top cut there, and another reason why you should expect high diversity at your set champs. This is very much the deck that at the start of the set everyone said was going to break the game. We were, Prince John into Muses, seeing a Beyond the Horizon was going to be the most disgusting thing we've ever seen, and it was going to happen every single game, and it was going to become unplayable. It didn't work out that way because actually, the deck is exceptionally powerful, but it can have some bricky draws. It can be
the problem is more
prone to disruption.
The problem is more that this line doesn't need you necessarily win you the game, because like your opponent, if you play against aggressive stuff, then you do nothing, then depleting the last cards of their hand, and your Prince John is then exerted and stuff, and then it doesn't always do the job that it should do. So I think the line is a bit over, but it's still a crazy good card, and against some slower matchups, it's great. So sorry about that, interrupted you.
Yeah, no. I think it's totally agree. So while that line was something that we were afraid of going in, there are drawbacks to it, but nonetheless, Green Steel Discard remains an incredibly powerful deck. Very, very playable. Big enabler of non-games a lot of the time through just like Shift to Diablo, early removal, get into a position that they can't catch up with, and then start discarding them aggressively. If you have enjoyed this playstyle before, I know we say about every single deck, but it's kind of like, we've gone through a whole 2-year format now. If this was your great love of the format, no need to stop playing it now. It's still super good and is seeing a little benefit from some of the card choices that other decks are making. For example, some of the red decks are cutting back on brawls. That's great for you. And there's lots of windows to snipe with triple discard a lot of these slower decks still. And Beyond the Horizon just gives you this new avenue of attack that sometimes nets you tons of cards for Prince John. Sometimes it's just kind of like a one-sided refill for you. But in general, a nice pickup for the deck that helps round out the set of tools it's got. So I think very viable. By now, I don't need to tell you about this deck. You've probably lost it a million times. You probably got a hole in your bedroom wall from when you got home after a tournament, losing to this, and you just gave it a little punch, downed a monster, quick hole in the drywall, and then you move on with your life. We've all been there. So no judgment. And if you like the deck, still really, really playable. Keen to keep us moving, or we're going to get behind on time. Next deck I've called out is Blurple, which I a couple of weeks ago said I thought was the best deck in the format. And I'm not sure my mind has really changed. I think it's very, very good. Actually, I would say that if I had to pick a best deck in the format today, it would be Amber Steel. But I think Blurple's in a great spot, and lots of people seem to be having a lot of fun with it. Have you played any this set?
Oh, I think that's the deck where our opinions go mostly the different ways. Yeah. But that's okay. That's okay. I think Blurple has also very polarizing matchup spread, I think, and it's like it crushes some random stuff, but the problem is for me that it loses to both red decks very, very, very hard, I think, at least in my experience. And Ember Steel is also tough, and aggressive stuff can also be tough. So that's just from its matchup spread, and I played it too. It didn't have too much success with it because I lost to random stuff, and even like this card decks can be tricky sometimes. And I don't know. There's not. I personally, green purple player, I think it's my worst matchup. So it's kind of weird me saying this deck is not good.
Sure.
But it's every time I see it and every time I play it, I get not completely convinced by it. I think it's still it's of course a playable deck, and I think against some random piles that can show up in set championships. It's very good at consistently beating them. But at least as soon as you get like against really good red purple and red blue players and amber steel players, it gets tougher and tougher. At least in my experience. But I don't think I am. I understand everything and stuff. That's just my feeling, and it's still a good deck. That's not what I wanna. And if you, for example, play against a lot of green purple in your set championships, then it's a very good pick. Then you should pick it.
Then it's really good. But yeah, I mean, I didn't feel bad about the red purple matchup because you play slightly ahead of curve, and then I would kind of just Hades their shark. You have so many chances to get so far ahead on cards in hand that you're like fine with the board getting B-prepped because you can re-establish a board so easily.
The problem is what I often do is like I play not much. I know you can't fall too behind on Lorden, but then I play a shark, and they need to Hades the shark. That they really need to, even if they have like a crazy big board and I have nothing, they still need to Hades the shark, and then the brief drop really hurts. That's what. But maybe that's also a skill expression thing. And if I play against really good Blurple players, it gets harder and harder. I think that the matchup is not completely like really bad for Blurple, but I think it's. And in my feeling, it was on the red purple side. And
yeah, sure.
Yeah, but it's still a very skill dependent matchup, so maybe it doesn't. Yeah, it's not that meaningful because like if you're just a better player than your red purple opponent, then you still win. That's probably still the case. And yeah, it's like a mirror match or something. But yeah, I'm also a bit a red purple player, so I see it more of like maybe on the side of a red purple player, and then I think like why should I play Blurple over red purple? But that's fair. I think if you like the deck, I think it's still a good deck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of like when I think about decks for set championships, I tend to think in terms of what are the most powerful things a deck can do through its early turns that don't require a great deal of pilot skill, so that anyone in these formats, anyone of any level of experience can sit down and perform to a decent standard, have a chance against tier 1 decks. And Blurple really is one of those decks that does that for me, because on the play, like turn 2 ramp, turn 3 Genie or Iago, turn 4 Elsa, beats loads of stuff.
I know. Against some
incredibly good.
Against some random piles, you just play Iago turn 3 and the game ends. That's still the fact. Yeah, that's true. I think. Yeah, my feeling is just if the skill ceiling goes higher and higher, then it struggles more than
sure.
But that's maybe just a feeling. But yeah, I think it's fair.
Yeah, nice. Cool. So next up, we are having a quick look at Purple Steel, and this build we've got here, 32nd at the PPG tournament in Texas, is doing a lot of. It's helping to show a wide range of Purple Steel builds in one list. So generally with Purple Steel, you've got one core deck building choice to make, which is are you a Doc deck or are you a Rabbit deck? Doc versions don't tend to play Zeus. Rabbit versions do. Some Doc versions don't play Elsa. Some do. There are a few other choices in between, but I mean the core gameplay of Purple Steel: drawing cards, deploying lots of threats that replace themselves, and having access to all the steel removal as a game plan, also still seems to be as good as ever.
Yeah.
I know you're not much of a Purple Steel player, but do you have a sort of view on this at the moment?
I think that there's also a third version, you could say, like with this broom stuff, with this.
Yes, of course,
about that. Yeah, I think it's a very good deck. If you there's nothing. It's also like one of the best aggressive decks right now. Similar to Amber Steel. I don't know how I would feel about it in comparison to Amber Steel aggro, but So I would probably tend to play more the rabbit version, because I think that's my, first of all, my playstyle, and I think the Amber Steel aggro. I would search for if I play an very aggressive purple steel. I would say I would search for the reasons to play it over Amber Steel aggro right now, and then I would probably struggle a bit to answer that for myself. So with the rabbit version, you have more removal, and especially like against shark decks, you have a very good time, I think.
Yeah, you become much better against sharks with those builds. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you can grind a bit better and stuff. So I think, but that's yeah, I think that's not. If you like purple steel aggro, it's also a good dock deck for sure. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Dock and Genie in one deck is good. That can be said.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's like right now the main tough point for playing purple steel for me is that it's my favorite dock deck, but I think Amber Steel is the best dock deck right now. Purple Steel has the advantage that you get to play the bouncers, which also increase your chance of redrawing off dock, something that enables you to dock again the next turn. It's not just you need more docks. You can just bounce docks and replay them. And when you get that going, that's incredibly good. And yeah, just generates so much card advantage, and just means you can go wide while keeping some resources back a little bit and present a super threatening board every turn. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I've been playing a lot of Purple Steel recently. I've been playing some versions that play Dump Truck as well, and I've had a ton of fun with that. Just like
shooting
sniping merfolk with it and things like that. And there's a whole list of hilarious things you can kill with Dump Truck. That
of course,
it's a lot of fun. But yeah, there's a ton of different ways to build Purple Steel, and I think most of them should be pretty viable if you are a Purple Steel enjoyer.
Of course, for sure.
Repeating is still really good into a lot of decks. You know, Bouncy Peats, if you're particularly afraid of things like green-yellow discard or any of the action-heavy decks. Blue-green, for example, these decks hard fold to Pete sometimes. The action-heavy versions, that is. And yeah, so if you're interested in doing nice, fair things while also having some good anti-aggro tools, which tends to be a pretty good strategy for set championship. Consistent deck that can answer aggressive stuff but also be quite threatening. Yeah, big fan of Purple Steel.
Nice.
Okay, now we're really getting into the meat of it. Green Purple Tempo, and the build that I've pulled out for this is Primal's winning list. So yeah, first question for you: have your thoughts on the Tempo build moved on at all, or are you still roughly in this area?
No, I'm also talking with Primal a lot. He's in my team, and I'm actually on the same list right now. I think 1 or 2 cards different, and that doesn't make a big difference. Like, I'm liking still 3 Peter Pans and stuff, but it's so small minor things. And yeah, he won a 250 player tournament with it. I think there's no doubt that Green Purple is a strong deck, and rewards you for knowing the game very good, I think. And I love it. It's still, and I'm kind of confident saying that it's still one of the harder decks to pilot, and you can get a very, very, very low win rate if you not play the deck correctly. And it's rewarding, but very strong, I think. If you expect a lot of Blurple, that's the only reason why I would not play it. If you don't expect,
that would put you off.
If you expect not a lot of Blurple, you have a really good time, a really good matchup spread. You have also, I have to say you have not like really auto win matchups, but you have also no really auto lose matchup. I think while testing it more and more, it's one of the best decks against Green Steel. I have a crazy high win rate against Green Steel in the meanwhile, because I don't know, we are naturally so hyper teched against it, and then with these Peter Pans and stuff, and then I don't know, like slamming a Prince John is very slow against us. They don't have these explosive under the sea plays then and stuff. So they sometimes we can I don't want to say very easy, but sometimes we just win by just racing and them bricking a bit with their hand. They can, as soon as they see a Peter Pan in your hand, they can't really shift their Diablo, or at least it's like very weird for them. And then their only real draw engine is gone. You deplete your hand, so the Prince John doesn't get much. So, and it's like can be often very easy to push out like a bit of lore if you're like on 14 or something. Then it's kind of easy against them to close the game sometimes. Not always. They can also like play muses and stuff, but not all lists play muses or not on a high amount. So I have a very good win rate against them, and that's like appealing for me for green purple because that's one of the decks that I really are happy to beat.
Yeah.
And everything else, you will not get away with me from you will not see me going away from green purple this set. It's a strong deck, and why we are really say it's hard to say which is the best deck. Then we can make even more reasons to play a deck you really love, and that's green purple for me, because it's very hard for me to say which is the best deck right now. If I would be just have to name one deck, then it's red blue items for me, but green purple is like what I enjoy more, and it's not said that if I say red blue items is the best deck for me, then it's not like said to me that it's the best choice for set champs, because it's can lose to itself and stuff, and can lose to some random aggro piles, and this deck can't.
Yeah, can lose to fast draws from random decks.
Yeah.
That's set champs are where that happens. That's where random losses to aggressive but non-standard decks happen. So you got to be a little bit wary of that, which is why a lot of them turn into just like a mid-range steel slugfest.
Yeah.
And
how do you feel about green purple right now?
I have played a lot of it. I've played a lot of tempo and discard, and my happiness with it went down a bit over time, but it started really, really high. I think that we go through the same sort of. It's the same routine every set. It's like it's incredible for the first 2 weeks of every format, and it feels like it's never been better. Then Amber Steel rises, suppresses it a bit. The decks that beat it get a bit better, and we go towards feeling like it's not good. And then at the end of the format, during set champ season, it's just randomly great again. So yeah, I'm very happy to be on it for my set championships.
We call it the green purple cycle, the green purple set cycle. We are on the
green purple cycle.
This green purple cycle was in the beginning it's high then low, and now it's high again, so we can play it again. It's green purple. And if before you know anything about next set, you know that will happen again. Will be good in the beginning, then it will be bad, and then it will be good again. That's what always happens.
The easiest way to know whether or not it's a good idea to play green purple is to think, how did it perform 2 weeks ago? If the answer is good, don't play it. If the answer is bad, do play it. Now it's time. The cycle is coming back into line, and all is going to work out for you. I don't ask me why it works that way, but it does. It's like constantly in and out of favor. Sometimes yes.
But to sum it up, I think I'm really confident saying, and I may be the person. I recently thought maybe you or me, either of us is maybe the person that played the most green purple games in the world. Could be, right?
It could be, could be one of us.
Could be one of us. And just from someone who played the most green purple games of the world, I think it's really, really, if you play it, don't go too far away from what Primer played here. It's like it's very well defined, and it's like one of the It's really solved out for me. Like for like 56 cards, 57 cards, there's not that much that I would change. Play flints, please. People are low on flints. Some people are low on flints, but that's really interesting for me. Like when I talk with people, the better they are, the higher they are on flint. That's really interesting observation for me.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think it's like for many players, it's underestimated how important it is to get cheap lore on the board. Then even in the end game, and like many people dislike this. How can I say this option to lose a bit of board control just to get more lore through? But that's actually where the deck shines a bit. Like I played it. I write it in my guide too. Like we have like 4 goats and 4 go-go's in the deck, or like 3 go-go's sometimes. But all these reach cards do nothing. That they really do nothing until they win you the game. So like you have 8 cards in your deck that have no meaning. They do nothing till they do something. If you are under 10 lore, the cards do nothing. Like that they have no meaning in the deck. So you have a lot of bricks, you could say, in your deck. Or you could say the power level of the deck goes higher the more lore you are, you could say. Because like suddenly the cards have a purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very good observation. So if you're not playing and building to get yourself into that range where those where those specific cards go from being like bricks to the best possible draws you could have, you're not going to have a great time with the deck. And it's for me, like my opinion on Flynn is I don't love the card, but I am high on it because you need some number of two cost two questers in the deck to get yourself into that position and to be able to like double spell on turn 4 with them being threatening. And it's the best option of them because Banzai's not good right now. And it's been sort of a little bit hated out.
Sometimes I think Banzai is playable, but I think if I see a list and I see Banzais instead of Flints, then I get it. But I think still
the uninkability just really so much less flexible.
Yeah, and it's kind of
I take Flints over Banzais at the moment for sure.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Good deck.
Okay. Right. Yeah, very good deck. Got to keep it moving for the last 2. Green purple discard. I'm not going to spend a massive amount of time on this because we have already been talking for a really long time, and I think people know a fair bit about this deck. I do still think it's very playable. Some people are not high on it, others really like it. I am a fan. I don't know if I'll play this over tempo at set championships, but it's certainly on my radar. I think it's still a very, very playable deck that if you are looking to Diablo, I prefer it to Green Steel. There are some Green Steel loyalists that could never see the advantage of playing this over Green Steel. There are some people that would like this and would never play Green Steel. For me, it's my favorite Diablo deck there's ever been, and Diablo continues to be an incredibly good card for generating non-games and running away with games you otherwise wouldn't have been able to win.
You're the expert. What do you? Because I didn't play Green Purple Discard too much, honestly. What do you think is the environment you play discard? Tempo over discard or discard over tempo? What's what? Because I think it's a strong deck, and I'm not sure in which environment I would. I think Green Tempo is better in aggressive metas, I would say. Or how would you say?
Yeah. Yes, I would say that for discard, one of the hardest deck building challenges you have is how many slots do you dedicate to these anti-aggro or like responsive cards like crabs, foxes. How many of those can you have to find the exact, because they're not part of your plan. That's not really what your deck wants to do, but you have to have them in to not lose those matchups. So what weighting are you giving to these cards to help you ensure that you don't get run over by too many aggressive things? I would say that is the big distinction, is that tempo does have a better game plan against aggro, and that for me, I'm not too sure about sort of specifics. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would rather play discard into like a shark heavy meta because you have so many more answers to shark that
That's crazy good. I think
than tempo does.
I did underestimate the deck a bit. I have to admit. The levers were really good. And basically in the end game it has removal for everything, and then it's a strong deck. I have to admit.
Yeah, very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to wrap us up, we've got one more left, which is Amber Emerald discard, and a great top 8 run at PPG from Hal Brady, playing Emerald Amber discard, which
this is my nemesis always my nemesis, this deck. I hate this so much. I never want to play against it. It's really, if I see inked turn 1 bare necessities or something, I get always like anxious because like I hate it so much. Nearly with every deck I play, and I think I have to play it more myself because then I get lower on it, because like it can break from time to time. But then we have a really good German player here, Bennett. You probably know him. He always has crazy success with this deck, and
it is so consistently underrated. It's got to be the most underestimated and underrated deck of all time in terms of it's never really been terrible since it was created, but people have gone off it for like entire sets. And the people that stuck with it, most notably in the community, you've got, like you say, Bennett, and Kawa is a huge fan of this. He's played it forever. They see incredible results. It's a skill-intensive deck that just has some super explosive openings and incredibly swingy turns. It's so easy for this deck to set up its Kida or Lost in the Woods into Under the Sea, completely wipe your board. And there are some decks that just can't recover from that.
There are enough decks. I think they said this is even more than Green Steel. Like this, I can't beat the high roll of this deck. Like that's crazy. And it sometimes is very easy, like against Red Purple or something. Prince John into your Forgotten Me just wins you randomly the game often because it's so much card advantage that it's so hard to catch up by that. And it's a 2-card combo, That's not. It's nothing crazy. So I'm always afraid of this deck. I'm always like afraid of people then that can play this deck good. If you want a challenge and get rewarded for it, and still want to play a deck that is not played very much, so you don't play mirrors probably, then it's one of the best choice. But please practice this deck if you want to play this. There's so many lines and stuff, and you can bounce your area with muses, and there's a lot of stuff going on that you can misplay. And I think still like aggressive stuff, or especially aggressive Pete decks, is still like what you don't want to face with this. And then aggressive Pete decks is kind of like what shows up quite often in set championships. So maybe that's the only reason.
Yes. That's your warning sign. Really good observation. That's the weak point, and they are pretty common at set championship level. So
like even a daisy or something is like really, really annoying for this deck to deal with if you have no muses. And the
Lewis that it has now, Lewis, don't know the
Lewis. The Lewis, true. The Lewis is good.
A very good pickup for the deck.
That's true.
A nice gap filler.
And if you really want to find a deck that dies after rotation, that is really that. And that is not even crazier than this is. I think only the Lewis. Wait, Lewis? Chip. Yeah, okay. That's it.
Cricky.
That's it. Lewis and Chip.
Cricky set 4.
Oh yeah.
There are two cards that
Two cards.
don't rotate,
and they don't even like a core card. I mean, chip
they're
is
not important.
no, they're not important.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so this is the most weak to rotation deck. So maybe if you're thinking about picking up something new, now might not be the time to invest in this.
Yeah.
But if you've been practicing, then yeah, it's a very rewarding deck that really, it's got a lot of room to outplay your opponent and a lot of room to create some very swingy turns that can just completely end the game.
Yes.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay, that's it. We've been talking for a long time, but that's kind of got through all the decks I wanted to look at. Like I say, if you put me on the spot, I could probably name 5 or 6 more that I think are super playable as well, but there's only so much time we've got to sit and talk. And I think let's wrap there.
Yeah, I think so. I think I wish you all good luck in the set championships, and hopefully you have a lot of fun. Next weeks we will more focus on the rotations. I think we still will talk about, because I will play this weekend probably a set championship, and I don't know if do you play one too?
No, I think I have to wait a couple of weeks until my first one. I think they're all quite close together.
Maybe we do some minutes in the beginning or something to talk about this.
Yeah, we'll talk about some. Yeah,
and then we can move along with rotation stuff. Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, then we thank everyone for watching, and hope you will do well in set championship with our great preparation. And yeah, till next week, till next time, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.